in the Tony Run of Big River on Broadway, his acclaimed performances at the Mark Taper Forum, and his role in the 2015 LA Drama Critics Circle Award nominee for Spring Awakening. In television, Troy made headlines for his acting role in The Mandalorian. In 2019, he was a part of Disney Plus because in The Mandalorian, along with his acting, he created and adapted a form of sign language for the series, The Book of Boba Fett. Other notable television roles include guest starring appearances on Curb Your Enthusiasm, Criminal Minds, Scrubs, CSI, and of course, everyone's famous Sue Thomas, FBI. His directorial debut came in 2013 with the family feature No Ordinary Hero, which followed his passion for inspiring deaf children. And then in 2023, Troy produced and appeared in the short documentary To My Father, paying tribute to his late father, whom he also dedicated his Oscar to in his acceptance speech. That film premiered in Tribeca. Now let's give some huge hand waves to the majestic Troy Kotsur.
Whoa. Well, thank you. Hello, everyone. I want to thank you for that introduction. That's pretty amazing to have it all, see it all there in one little bit, this journey and where it's led me to this moment. I am so honored to be here and to support Kamala and Governor Walz. I also want to talk about the times that I see that Kamala, in her eyes, she got my attention. I met her and she got my attention. She wanted to know about deaf culture. I have met her 4 times in person at the White House when I was invited. I was one of the members of PCH and the President's Committee on Arts and the Humanities. I have seen her become more and more well-known, and I've also noticed that she's learning sign language. But I feel like thing was going on with that. I wasn't sure if I was right or wrong, but I asked her if she would take the effort to learn sign language more than just one word, in one sentence. So I'm sure that you've already seen the video of her where she was signing her one sentence that she supports language for deaf children. But I looked at that and I thought, well, wait a minute. I thought way back to George Washington, our first president of the United States, to now. Have any of them learned more than one sentence? That tells me something. I feel that this would be a great step forward in terms of deaf education, education of the hard of hearing community, and the arts and theater. And I feel it's time that we get this back and that therefore we support this ticket. And thank you for your consideration. We must support Kamala and Tim Walz. Thank you. Mm-hmm.
Again, Troy, thank you so much for joining us on our call today. We are deeply appreciative of your taking your time to be here. Your words inspire us. They really touch us. Many, many thanks to your being here to join us this evening. Now, our next presenter tonight, someone I think you know well, someone whose name you have seen. I'm happy to introduce Eric Shear. Eric identifies as a deaf, gay, Jewish individual. He has been actively involved in the Democratic Party since 2008 and has served as the co-moderator admin of Deaf People for Joe Biden 2020 and co-admin of Deaf People and Allies for Harris Walz. He was elected as the first deaf delegate from Washington State to the Democratic National Convention in 2020 and re-elected as the first deaf PLO party leader and elected official delegate from Washington State to the DNC in 2024. Currently, he serves as precinct committee officer. He was duly elected of the 32nd Legislative District. As PCO, he was reelected for a fourth term with an outstanding 78.5% of the total votes cast. He also served 4 years as the first deaf commissioner co-chair of the Seattle Disability Commission. Let's give a warm welcome to Eric.
Thank you so very much. I am here tonight because I want to talk about the importance of voting, of your vote. You know, today is National Register to Vote Day, and the power of one vote is what I want to talk about. Article 1 of the United States Constitution determined that members of the Senate and House of Representatives would both be elected directly by the popular vote. However, the president would be voted not by the people, but through something called the Electoral College. This Electoral College means that every state in the United States has a certain number of electors that were based on the population of that state. Each of those states numbers 270, which if the person gets 270 of the electoral votes, they become president. For example, let me tell you about how this works. In the year 2000, Al Gore almost nearly won, narrowly lost. He could have won, but almost won, but he lost Florida by a very small number of votes. So they did a recount by law, and George Bush won that because he won the popular vote by very few votes. And that automatically called for a recount. So the Supreme Court then decided in Bush v. Gore that Bush had won the Florida vote. So there are only 537 votes that are cast for president. So the votes, if 600 more people had voted for Al Gore that year in Florida, he would have won. Now let's look at 2008. Or he would have been president from 2000 to 2008. Now, more recently, Donald Trump defeated Hillary Clinton in 2016 by securing a close electoral college win. Although the election did not come down to a handful of votes in one state, Trump's votes in the electoral college were decided in a tight race. So while Clinton had won the national popular vote by nearly 3 million votes, but the concentration of Trump voters in key districts in swing states led him in Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Michigan, helped seal enough electoral votes to win the presidency. Elections have consequences. Every vote matters. You have the power to make key decisions on the quality of life you want for yourself, your family, and your community. Voting is your chance to stand up for the issues you care about, like affordable housing, women's health, economic justice, environmental protection, and disability issues and rights, and quality education. This election has tremendous stakes for Americans of all walks of life. Secondly, it's your right. Not voting is giving up your voice. Every vote counts. A no vote, not voting, is a vote for Trump. Number 3, it's your money. One way or another, every person in our community pays taxes, both citizens and non-citizens. And yet, most people don't know how that money is being used. For voting. Voting is your chance to choose how your tax dollars are spent, such as additional funding for healthcare and social services. This happens both through your vote on specific propositions and ballot measures, as well as those people we elect to leadership positions. And they are the ones who commit to supporting key social service issues in our community. To have a say in who gets to determine social agendas, it's essential to vote. It's important to register to vote. And if you haven't, go to vote.gov and be the power to make a difference. Oh, see, every vote counts. This is wherever you live, it's important that you live. I have voted in several different ways. I voted absentee, I've been in person, I've used mail balloting. So there's several ways you can vote. Look it up. Thank you, Eric. Our next speaker is another surprise guest. We are immensely honored to have Marlee Matlin here with us. And with that, we welcome her. Marlee Matlin has many credits to her. She's done so many things in her life. We all know what they are. And we know that she was in The Children of a Lesser God, where she won the Oscar award. And there are many, many other things that she has done across the years that have inspired many of us. And there's so many things that we could say about her. But most importantly, we want to know is that she is involved in the film Coda, which won Best Picture a few years ago. And we are extremely honored to have Marlee Matlin present to us tonight. Thank you, Marlee.
Thank you so much. Hello, everyone out there. This was a little last minute, being able to jump in and join you all this evening. I really don't have anything specifically prepared, and I'm sorry about the clutter that you're seeing behind me. First of all, Eric, thank you very much for your very important message. You are right on target. You are crystal clear. Troy, also, thank you so much for your very, very powerful message. First of all, I'm a proud American. I'm a mother of 4 children. I have 2 daughters. I'm a grandmother. I just became a grandmother of a little girl. I want to talk about girls and women's rights, something really important to me personally. Kamala talks about women's rights, an issue that is important. A right to do whatever I want, whatever my daughter chooses to do with her and their bodies. A right to choose, whatever it is they want to choose. This is critical. There are other issues as well. Please understand, I've looked at many people's comments, their politics, their different points of views. I take that in. I see that. I understand. But what's important, what's truly critical, do your homework. It's important that you learn and understand what each candidate is talking about. Understand what they're preaching, if you will. What they mean, both the candidates. When they talk about an issue, where are the facts? Where are the non-facts? It is absolutely crucial to deeply understand what they're talking about. When we talk about facts, we have too many followers out there who just believe whatever comes out of anyone's mouth. They just get in line. But without understanding truly and deeply the message, where is the truth and where is the non-truth? Come on, do your damn homework. Stop being a follower. That is my greater point. That puts a fine point on it. You're Americans. We're all Americans. You pay your taxes. You support your families. You pay for your household. You pay for your food, your education. You want to live a good life for yourself. You want a good life, period. You want good health and good health care. So having said that, I would love to talk on this more. I think the bottom line is do your homework. Stop being a follower. Try to have good conversations. Try to stop hating each other. Just stop the hate. I support Kamala Harris. That's where I come from. And I say so because I like what she says. I love the things that she supports. That is my decision. And so, having said that, vote. Be an American. Vote. There are many ways to do it, and there's no excuse not to. If you want to get good health care, if you want your children to live a good life, vote. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for letting me, very last minute, share my thoughts. Take care. And thank you to all the people collaborating on this event this evening.
Oh, thank you so much. I know we were all listening all over the country. So thank you. We appreciate your willingness to come here. And thanks so, so, so much.
Love to you all.
Okay, our next speaker is our first of the Joyful Inspirations. His name is Brad Klein. And Brad, hold 1 second. We're going to have him up here in just a second. And here's Brad. Brad, hi there, Brad. Brad is a CODA. And he's a proud CODA, and he had the opportunity to be raised in a deaf community as a hearing person. Growing up, he says, my dad had a saying that being deaf doesn't make you dumb. But when hearing people find out you're deaf, it can really make them become dumb. And with that, enjoy Brad Klein.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me here tonight. I am so honored to follow these two big stars of CODA. I'm a CODA myself. Having said that, thank you so much. Yes, that was a saying my father would say often about being deaf. He would say that being deaf doesn't make you dumb, but when hearing people find out that you're deaf, it does make them dumb. I'm an only child. So that meant when the phone rang, I was the one who had to answer it. And I can't tell you how many salespeople would call the house asking for my parents, and it would drive me crazy. So they would say, hi, is your father there? And I'd say, well, I'm sorry, but my father's deaf. And they'd say, oh, and then their brain would break and they wouldn't know how to proceed. And they'd go rifling through their manual. And of course, nothing said anything about how to respond to a parent being deaf. And so I would try again. And they said, I'll call back later. And I would look at the phone thinking, you could call back later, but my dad is not magically going to become hearing when you call me back later. So I would tell them, and they would apologize and say, that's okay. Let me talk to your mom. And I say, no. My mother's deaf as well. And they say, oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. So both of your parents are deaf? And I'd say, that's okay. So, and they'd say, what about your grandparents? And I would say, no, my parents live with me. And they'd say, oh, no, I'm sorry, that's impossible. What about your aunt and uncle? And I would say, no, it's just me and my parents. It's just the three of us. Do you want to talk to the dog? And they would say, they'd get so confused. And they'd say, well, how long ago did you lose your parents? And then I'd say, no, my parents aren't dead. They're deaf. And then they would be very relieved and say, okay, I'll call back later. Or another time, my parents would be driving and I'd be hungry. So we'd pull the car over to get some food and head into a restaurant. No big deal. So we'd have a seat and we'd just be hanging out, and the waiter would come over and greet us and ask, what would you like to drink? So I'd be talking with my parents, and he'd look at my parents and then start apologizing. He would grab the menu from my parents' hands and take off to the back of the restaurant. My parents would look at me and look at each other like, what just happened? We were just talking. I don't know why the waiter decided to just grab the menu away from us. So the waiter would come back, all full of himself, apologize and say, here you go, and give my parents a brand new menu in Braille. So there are some people, when I do this little comedy bit, they don't laugh. And I always have to tell them, if you're not laughing, it's because you don't understand that Braille is not for deaf people. Braille is for blind people. Also, if you're not laughing, it's because you might not understand that the story's funny, and I have to then explain to them that my parents always try to check out and use the Braille menu. I can tell you another story about my parents. My parents went shopping one day. So I'm in the store, they're checking things out through the register. And so my mom asked the cashier one time without looking up something. And my mom says something to the cashier. The cashier doesn't look up. My mother says, I need you to look at me because I'm deaf, at which time the cashier tries to tell her the time by physically becoming a clock.
It's 2 for
Whew.
you.
Yeah. 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 This happens all the time. So that's my life as a coda. I see the best in the world as a hearing person and as a deaf person. And I am proud, very proud, to support Kamala Harris and Tim Walz because they support access. They support empowering everyone
Justice. Social justice.
for social justice, specifically for the deaf community. So we support them as well. We've seen them so many times. I've seen my parents experience language deprivation, oppression, and discrimination, and I'm tired of it. I'm tired of it. I want to see the deaf community rise up to be equal with everyone. And for that reason, I support Kamala Harris.
Oh, are you going to do the bio? Yeah.
Thank you so much. We enjoyed that. That was hilarious. Thank you, Brad, so much. There are lots of ways to communicate. Amazing, the barriers that are out there, but we find a way, don't we? We find a way. Just tremendous. So I hope you all agree. Now let's move on to our next speaker. Our next speaker tonight is Neil McDevitt. I want to introduce Neil. He was born and raised in New Jersey. Neil is currently the executive director for a nonprofit in the Philadelphia region. Neil was a former volunteer firefighter and used to work in FEMA. He used to work in the Disability Integration and Coordination Office. He has spent most of his life working in public service. So I am thrilled to introduce to you a wonderful man, introducing Neil McDevitt.
Hello, everyone. I am thrilled to be here tonight to support Vice President Harris and Governor Walz. I would like to say a little bit more about myself. I'm a middle-aged white gentleman. I used to have blonde hair, which is now becoming dark brown with some gray popping in there just every so place and every so often, and a beard and a gray shirt, a gray button-down shirt. My name is Neil McDevitt. I am a proud Democrat. I am the first deaf person using American Sign Language to be elected for office of mayor in the United States. I was born and raised in a small town in New Jersey. I am the executive director for a not-for-profit organization in the Philadelphia area. I'm a former volunteer firefighter, and as it was said, I used to work at FEMA as the Disability Integration Coordinator. I've spent most of my adult life in public service, and I want to say a few more words about what might happen if Donald Trump were to become president. People with disabilities would be are in grave danger if that happens. For one reason, Project 25 and anything it's put in print that anything dealing with civil rights for people who are deaf or deafblind or hard of hearing will be removed from every federal agency and every federal regulation and every rule and so forth that every contract that is the federal government has, the protections will be removed. Because what this means is that Trump and his allies would essentially take out of any federal agency to investigate discrimination against anybody as a deaf person. Project 2025 will also effectively end enforcement of the Americans with Disabilities Act, which would allow companies, hospitals, police departments, and everyone else to discriminate against you without worrying about the consequences. Plus, many of our very cherished deaf community organizations depend heavily on federal funding for their survival. For example, Project 2025 states they would eliminate the United States Department of Education. Now, Gallaudet University gets 75% of its funding from the Department of Education. NTID gets $95 million annually from the Department of Education, which means if Donald Trump is elected, both of our cherished flagship colleges will be in danger. Also, many deaf people go to work for the government and nonprofit organizations, such as Schools for the Deaf. People have student loans. People, if you have a student loan, there's a forgiveness program. You don't have to carry that burden into later life. Project 2025 will get rid of that. The Forgiveness Act would be, which would force deaf people to spend many, many, many years paying off their debts. Finally, Governor Walz and Vice President Harris are committed in many, many ways to preserving our hard-earned freedoms and rights. But most importantly, they are committed to making sure that we have the absolute right to vote. Donald Trump and his Republican allies have consistently fought every effort to making voting easier and to make it more accessible and to make your vote count. It is so important for you to vote for Vice President Harris and Governor Walz. Done. I'm waiting for Daniel. There we go. Okay. Thank you, Neil. All deaf people should understand all of this, that the importance of access. Thank you. And if we have access, plus the other things that the ADA provides, it means so many people will have opportunities open to them in the deaf community. Our next speaker is Alex Van Hook. He's coming to us from Arizona. Now, he's in Arizona now, or his name sign is Alex. He says, I was born in California, but grew up in southeastern Pennsylvania. I am an attorney in an advocacy nonprofit organization. I've had a passion for several years in advocating for disability rights in the progress toward an accessible and inclusive society for all.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for that introduction. And thank you for having me here.
For this wonderful celebration.
For this wonderful celebration for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. I have some short comments I want to share with you about Medicaid as well as Medicare.
Mm-hmm.
Understand that Medicaid and Medicare are what allows deaf and hard of hearing people to be involved in their communities. It allows them to be a part of the community, to participate, to save money, to engage, to have rich and meaningful lives without having to depend on others.
Mm-hmm. Medicaid funding, personal
Medicaid
assistant.
funding has given me a personal assistant so I can live in the community as well and save my money. Now, Kamala Harris, as well as President Biden, have fought very hard to strengthen Medicaid and Medicare. They want to fund prescription drugs. And they are highly motivated to continue this practice, as well as to add additional strengths to Medicare and Medicaid.
Mhm. Okay.
Kamala and Tim want to support prescription drug reforms as well, which will save billions of dollars
Finally.
by finally empowering Medicaid to negotiate those lower prices. This is very, very important for our community. Unfortunately, the Republicans are going to try to repeal these reforms. The Democrats will try to make Medicare more permanent, permanently solvent, by making wealthy people pay their fair share in Medicaid taxes, Medicare taxes. Kamala Harris will be strong and firm to protect retirement security all across the board. They don't want disabled and deaf people. They want them to be able to retire as well, to be able to retire with dignity. If Trump were to be elected, from the 25andMe website, Trump has repeatedly proposed cuts to Social Security disability insurance. He's called for restrictions and benefit cutbacks. He wants to shrink Medicare, Medicaid, and cut access to affordable health care. He wants to make it harder to get on Medicaid. He wants to make it harder to apply as well. They want to make it easier for states to kick people off of Medicaid.
Mhm. It's right here.
They're going to allow states to force people to work to get Medicaid.
Mhm.
That means that people who can't find a job could lose their health care.
Mhm. Mhm.
So moving on, they could charge people for more Medicaid. They want to put time limits as well on how long people can be on Medicaid. Moving on to Medicare, they want to make Medicare will be more expensive. They want to repeal the Inflation Reduction Act and the drug negotiation programs that law lowers the cost of prescription drugs for people on Medicare. In other words, this means that prescriptions are going to cost more for all of us. So finally, they want to push people to Medicare Advantage plans that can require prior authorizations, making it harder for patients to access care. And they can restrict choices for physicians and hospitals. So vote for Kamala Harris, vote for Tim Walz. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your time. Thank you, Daniel. Alex, thank you so much for that very important information that you're sharing with us. Medicare and Medicaid, what that can look like will really depend on your vote. It is critical that you make your voice heard around these topics. Alex, thank you again. All right, moving on to our next joyful inspiration. We're moving on to Cheryl Emery. Thank you for joining us. I want to introduce Cheryl to you. She was born and raised in Missouri.
She's seen many things with the civil rights. She's witnessed many things, had many experience with people in the civil rights movement, and also was then around in the turbulence of the 1960s. She witnessed many things in the fierce struggle. At the age of 13, she became deaf due to spinal meningitis. Those formative years and experiences have deeply influenced her lifelong passion for advocacy. She was the first deaf woman in the state to run for these kinds, to be in charge of these. She continues to fight for equality and justice and in hope for America and all of the people here. It is my honor to introduce Cheryl Emery. Let me just tell you a little bit let me describe who I am. I am a Black woman. I'm wearing black glasses. My hair is sister locks and that are white and black. I'm wearing a white sweater. My background is black. And of course, I am using my pearls. I'm wearing my pearls, okay, for Kamala. They are my pearls. All right, so moving on. Dear friends, today's event is so awesome, as it is with great hope and that we gather together here. I really would like to take a look back on how where this joy has come from. It really, for me, started with President Obama as he talked about hope. Hope for our future, hope for all Americans. We feel this sense of hope is tremendous. Our sense of hope now with Donald Trump is just not there. It's toxic. With Kamala and Walz, the feeling of hope and the message of hope is there. The message of joy we see there. We have hope for change, hope for a better future, hope for progress, hope for all Americans. Hope. In the recent past, I felt hope with Obama, and I feel it again. I feel this again with Kamala and Tim Walz. Those two envision an America which has equality for all Americans, all people. The two of them showed such joy and they showed it to us. They showed that it includes their inclusive leadership style. Their work will historically, people who sign, people who are of color, historically, people who have disabilities, people who were poor, women, immigrants, LGBTQ, those people have been shoved to the side and marginalized. But Kamala and Tim see all people as needing to be included. They will continue our progress forward. We deaf people have fought very hard for the rights that we have now. I want you to think about something. Think about where we came from. Think about a moment in deaf history. There was a man named Charles Williams who was a deaf gentleman, a Black deaf man. He was from Ohio. He sued the Democratic National Committee, or the National Conference, because he wanted deaf people to be included in the discussions at the convention. He thought deaf people needed to know what was going on in the political process. Charles was a man of his word. He said that Democrats should be inclusive of all people. Charles was very courageous and determined that his example for all of us, and he showed that example. Charles's story, and this is a story of inclusion. With Kamala and with Walz, we will be included. They cherish diversity. Everyone's opinion is important. Representation of all people strengthens our nation. I encourage you to keep this spirit of hope. Keep the spirit of hope alive. Everyone, no matter what color, whether you're Black or white or Native American or Asian or poor, LGBTQ, we all deserve a seat at the table. We all deserve the ability to have our voices heard. And to say what is best for us and our nation. Together, we can make a difference. We can bring hope, the future of hope, a reality. Thank you, and I turn it back over to Daniel. Okay, thank you for those remarks. And I think that this will spread out all over the country to everyone's home, that message of hope, keeping hope alive. Yes, I want to thank you so much. Now, our next speaker is Amy Cohen Efron. And her name sign is ABC, interesting. Anyway, Amy is from Brooklyn, New York. She graduated from Gallaudet University with a BA in psychology and a minor in studio art. I later earned that she earned an MA and a PsyS in school psychology. After 30 years as a school psychologist, she decided to change careers and share her artistic talents and knowledge with students. In May of 2024, she received a Master of Arts in Teaching from Georgia State University. She is committed to furthering her studies in art and graphic design. As a professional artist, she believes in artivism, which is creating art as a catalyst for social change. In her artwork, it prompts a viewer to stop, think, and reflect. And if that happens, then I've succeeded, she says. So I welcome Amy Cohen Efron.
Daniel, thank you so much. And welcome, everyone. I'm just thrilled to see you all here today. What a special event, a moment in history to be together, gathered on Zoom today, to hear each other speak. Let me give you a description. I am a white woman. I have brown curly hair. I wear glasses. I have a silver necklace on. I'm sorry I didn't put those pearls on today. I'm wearing a black shirt. My life has been about education. It is the thing I truly value. And I'm sure that each of you values education as well. Education is the thing that shapes a person's life for the rest of their life. It starts young, at 3 years old sometimes, even younger for some of us, where we begin our educational path with our deaf babies getting exposed to language, making our way through the educational system to become successful citizens. That's what education does for us. Now, where are we today? Let's take a look at Project 2025. Neil McDevitt just recently referred to Project 2025 and the impact it's going to have specifically on education. not just education, but deaf education. And I want to share more details in 5 different areas where we will feel that impact, where you need to think carefully about your vote. The first area is in funding. Funding is critical for deaf education. It's a part of our institutions at Gallaudet University, at RIT, NTID as well. They rely on this funding. According to Project 2025, that funding will be rescinded, no longer available to those institutions which will be required to be run on their own without those supporting funds. Number 2 is a reduction in the special education resources, sending those responsibilities back to the states. We have laws to protect us right now. The laws talk about the IDEA, the Individual Disability Education Act, the IDEA. Federal monies right now flow to the states to make sure that those laws are followed and that students with those additional needs, disabilities, whether they are deaf or blind, have other mental needs, other diverse needs, those monies get funneled into those states to make sure their education needs are respected and supported. Project 2025 will withdraw those funds as well, or severely reduce them and send the responsibility back to the states. All of those important services our children receive will be dramatically reduced. Let's look at our deaf and hard of hearing children. Will they be able to get sign language interpreters? Those monies won't be there. Audiological services, those monies will be withdrawn. Speech services, language services, no money for that either. Take that in. Our children will suffer. If you're concerned, that's okay. Keep thinking. Number 3, Project 2025 wants to look at the education system, the public school system, where states are currently receiving money, and transition those monies to only private institutions. Private institutions where families can decide to send their children to private schools, which is their right. But to have the federal money follow only to private institutions, they don't have to follow the law. Private institutions do not have to provide services to deaf and hard of hearing children. If deaf and hard of hearing children want to go into those private schools, they will not provide sign language interpreters. They don't have to under the law. They don't have to provide additional services. They can require you to pay more. Where is the fair access to your child's education? Let's move on to number 4. According to Project 2025, they believe that people with disabilities and their rights to education, their rights to access, their rights to accessing public services, and to receive accommodations, for example, like captioning, interpreting, ramps, and the like. They want to weaken those rights, exactly as Neil McDevitt described it, under the ADA. They want to make the ADA weaker, and therefore our rights to access our education will be dramatically weakened. We will go back in time. And number 5, OVR, vocational rehabilitation, will be at risk. As our students get ready to graduate and our hopes climb for them to be able to enter their employment fields where they will receive supports from VR in order to make successful transitions into college or work life, those funds that we count on now are paid for by our taxes and allow for equal access, the same as any other hearing person. If VR is no longer, vocational rehabilitation is no longer available to us, we will spiral back in time. And we are not going back, are we? We are not going back. So here's what you can do. Please vote for Kamala Harris. Vote for Governor Walz. And why? Because Governor Walz is a teacher. Kamala Harris understands and values and supports our children. She understands our children's rights to language and education and the rights for people with disabilities to have the best access. You have the power to vote to stop Project 2025. You have the power to improve the quality of our lives through education and work. join me, join us, and vote for Kamala Harris. Back to Daniel.
With the introduction to Tiffany, we don't have one.
Amy, such powerful words. Thank you so much. It all does often come back to education. Such a critical resource for all of us as Americans growing up in this system, our educational system. And we can see the generational progress, which we need to propel forward and not go back by voting on November 5th. Thank you, ABC, again, for your very important comments. Now, our next presenter is Dr. Tiffany Pankow. Let's bring up Tiffany. Hi, Dr. Pankow. She was born in Rochester, New York, and has deaf parents as well. She also graduated from college and stayed in the Rochester area. She has a great passion for women's reproductive rights, specifically for deaf women who use ASL. She has her BS and her BA from RIT, and she received her degrees from that institution.
Outreach.
She has done a tremendous amount of research in the area of women's rights and right to reproductive health. Help me in welcoming Dr. Tiffany Pankow.
Thank you, Daniel. I am a female. I have brown glasses. I have long brown hair, and I'm wearing a black shirt. And my background is a window to the right of me, and some stuff is on the shelf. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. I am so honored to be here with you to talk about reproductive freedom, okay, which are, as they said in my production, reproductive freedom is not just about abortion access, it's much, much more. The goal for the next 5 minutes, my goal, would be to explain a little bit about more what reproductive freedom means. As I talk about that, we must explain what it is, right? It also includes reproductive justice, and it's a human right. There are 4 things which do that. We make decisions about our body, that we can have children or not have children, and we can decide how to raise them in a safe and sustainable community. Yes, the third one. Okay, there's 3 of those 4 are really important, but that third one is the one I want to talk about. I want to talk about Sister Song, which is a group of women of color who want to empower Native American women and people of color. They coined the phrase reproductive justice. Reproductive freedom is a racial justice issue. Roe v. Wade was overturned in the Supreme Court with the Dobbs decision, which did not automatically make abortion illegal, but it left it up to the states to decide. Many women have experienced challenges and barriers to reproductive health care for Black women, and that's nothing new. Black women are 3 to 4 times more likely to die from pregnancy issues. In fact, taking away reproductive freedom impacts Black, brown, and low-income people the most as they experience systemic inequalities. Remember that Black and brown people are more likely to die from childbirth. Now, a recent study estimated that banning abortion in the US would lead to a 33% increase in pregnancy related to death among Black people and a 21% increase to pregnancy-related deaths overall. Those are the impacts on Black and brown women. What about stories of what has actually happened? A 10-year-old rape survivor had to flee the state for care. Cancer patients were denied treatment. ER doctors were unable to legally treat a patient's miscarriage. Now, unfortunately, with Project 2025, this will get worse. They want to remove Medicaid funds from Planned Parenthood and states that require abortion insurance. The Planned Parenthood is good for other services such as cancer screenings and conception and so forth, and other kinds of treatments, not just abortion. This will only impact women trying to travel, not only impact women trying to travel to other states for abortions where it's legal, it will impact access to affordable health care. This is why it's so amazing to have Harris and Walz on the Democratic ticket, and I am so excited to vote for them. They will not only fight to maintain the right to not have children, but also they will guarantee affordable, high-quality childcare from birth until kindergarten, with most families paying just $10 a day, and make it free for low-income families. That's amazing. They will establish a national comprehensive paid family and medical leave program to ensure that all workers, including women, can take the time they need to bond with a new child, care for a loved one, or recover from an illness. Thirdly, expanding reproductive health care for service members, veterans, and their family members. Fourth, they will defend access to emergency medical care. And finally, they will ensure access to accurate information and legal resources. In closing, I am thrilled to be voting for Harris and Walz, and it's very important to me because of reproductive freedom and healthcare to all of us. Thank you, Tiffany. That's a very valuable, information on reproductive freedom and reproductive justice. We are honored to have you here with us. Thank you very much. Continuing on, we are now having our inspirational joy with this person I'm very excited to introduce is Christy Merriweather. Christy? Hi, Christy. Christy is from Atlanta. She is a Black deaf entrepreneur, former teacher, content creator, poet, writer, researcher, producer, event planner, and educational consultant. Gosh, that's a lot of things. As a word artist, she has introduced poetry and original scripts for plays, school homecoming events, and localized events. This fabulous individual has had a few of her poems been published in Deaf American Poetry and Anthology. I give you Christy Merriweather,
Share her
who will share her poem.
Daniel, thank you for that introduction. Hello, everyone. I'm a brown-skinned woman with long locks, and I'm wearing a black shirt with a rainbow bolt, lightning bolt across it. I have black bracelets on as well, and a background behind me with this, which is a tan wall. I'm sitting on a golden sofa with different pieces of artwork behind me on the wall. Before I begin my poem for you, I want to talk a little bit about what inspired me, where this inspiration came from. It actually came from a quote from Kamala Harris. She was talking about something her mother told her. Her mother said to her, "Do you think you just came from a coconut tree? That you just popped off the coconut tree one day and became yourself? No, you live in a greater world context. The world has influenced who you are, and all those who have come before you have created who you are today. So keep that in mind when I share my story and my poem, which is entitled The Facade of the Glass."
Next slide.
We lay prone, looking at the man-made facade of the glass ceiling above. All scratched up, all muddled up, all cracked up. Obfuscating the warm radiance of the sun, the luminous glow of the moon, the dazzling brilliance of the stars. Nah. That was no good then. It's not good now. You exist in the context. What came before you? The brief sunlight of emancipation and reconstruction, eclipsed by poll taxes, literacy tests, grandfather clauses, racial terrorism, strange fruits hanging off the trees, the crack of the rifle. Major pushback, resist, 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 nick, 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 until finally Amendment 15 of the Constitution cracks. Seneca Falls calls for women's suffrage. Nick. Victoria Woodhull runs for president with running mate, the fiery Frederick Douglass. Nick. Woman's place is in the kitchen. But ain't I a woman? Nick. Wyoming gives thumbs up. Nick. 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 Pa. Amendment 19. Big cracks. Equal voting rights. A loud crack. 7 more cracks from 7 women presidential candidates. 25 more cracks from Black presidential candidates before Obama. Yes, we can. Crack, 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 crack. Forward, onward. 1972, Golden Girls. Patsy Takamoto Mink, wearing the Hawaiian lei with a Japanese dragon ornament, being fierce and fearless. Shirley Anita Chisholm, wearing the red and the 9 white pearls. Being unbought and unbossed. $152 electoral cracks. We sit up looking at that man-made facade, glass, with hope. Forward, onward. Hillary Rodham Clinton, wearing the matching pantsuit, stronger together. 18 million cracks in 2008. 66 million cracks in 2016. We stand looking at that fabled glass ceiling, finally tilting precipitously. Forward, onward. Listen, I'm speaking. This is a serious matter. Instead of BIDE, biding our time. What time is it? Tick tock. It's time for harnessing our power. Wipe the glass screen contaminated with manipulative lies. Drop that glass laced with orange flavored Kool-Aid. Jim Jones Redux. 400 million plus deaths on his watch, plus 5 on J6. Declaring death to true democracy and human rights, an ever-present and clear threat to our national security, defying facts and truth, wreaking havoc on our economic stability, molding the justice system into his playground. No, we are not going back. Crack, crack, crack. Insert in your defense the ballot. Add more oomph to it with your laugh like her. Sound waves vibrating, aim all that at that thinning glass. On the 5th of November, your mission, number 2024. Don't be moved. Don't be bamboozled. Don't be deterred. Fire your ballot upward to the blue sky. Then behold, witness the grand, shattering, cascading, shimmering, like kaleidoscope crystals under the sun-powered moonlight, and feel the refreshing rush of the winds of change swirl through our nation. Go ahead. Walk through the revolving glass door. Keep going. We're not going back. Forward. Onward. Toward more perfect union. Back to Daniel.
Me? I guess me. Okay, that was really thrilling. Thank you so much. I loved seeing this in the Zoom. I'm sure your poem is now reverberating all across the nation. Thank you for that. Um, so I'm sure everybody's, you should have seen all the hearts that went up as you were doing that poem. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Our next presenter is, and then after her, we'll have one more Joy coming, joyful inspiration. Our next person is Melissa Elmira Yinks. Hi, Melissa. Melissa has always been passionate about unearthing hidden stories and raising awareness around social issues, especially those related to feminist causes. And also social justice and community are part of passions of her heart. And she's been deeply involved with organizations with those causes. Also, Council de Manos, which helps with against injustices in the deaf Latinx community, signed by Stories, a mental health advocacy group. These causes fuel her desire to create positive and lasting change. Her love for media extends beyond her professional roles. With her show, Melmyra, she's been able to foster raw, open conversations around key social issues. The show has connected her to a vibrant community of viewers and has sparked important dialogues that she is incredibly proud of.
No more introduction.
Needing no more introduction, I give you Melmyra. Thank you so much, and thank you mostly, Daniel. Okay, I want to give you a visual description. I am a light-skinned brown woman. I would have gold hoops. My hair is brown, and I've got it pushed back into a bun on one side. I'm wearing a black shirt with a gray sweater, and I have a white background and bright blue nails, just for drama. Anyway, or for the Democrats. So this story is very personal to me. I came out very late in life, around the same time that Donald Trump was elected. I knew that moment, the fear of being out in public with my rights potentially being taken away. This is what could be, if in danger, this is what could be in danger if Project 2025 were to happen. Many of the laws which protect anti-discrimination protections will be rolled back. There are many policies that really protect LGBTQ folks from discrimination of employment and housing, healthcare, education, which means those protections of anti-discrimination will be removed. We will not have those protections anymore. Secondly, there will be threats to marriage equality. Some states don't even recognize marriage at this point. It's a same-sex marriage. They will not. They don't have to. It also will impact the LGBTQ community as well. One of the most critical areas are the trans rights in terms of access to healthcare, of public accommodations, identity documentation. Project 2025 may bring for a taboo against a ban against that of gender affirming surgeries and care. That way, trans people will be much more
I
marginalized.
think it overheated.
They could be
Two surfaces? Yeah, that one.
not in the place. So trans people and non-binary folks would be deeply impacted by by Project 2025. Also, the impact on LGBTQ on representation in government. In Florida, they have that don't say gay rule, right? Remember, there would be more of that, which would spread across the country, which will limit discussion about gender identity in schools and sexual attraction. For young people, it's important as they're going through their exploration time that we have that, but this will ban that in schools. LGBTQI healthcare is already facing discrimination in health. They already have that. Project 25 could make that even worse, which means it would limit our access to cultural competence, to healthcare, especially for trans people, or even others of us, for example, people who are in same-sex treatment, fertility rights, and so forth, if they want to have families. What's more, they could also be denied services to folks based on the person's religious beliefs or whatever might be in part of the government, and they would deny healthcare to people. Also, we would see more LGBTQ representation. We're seeing more representation in the government now, but that could diminish. It would limit our visibility in the government. We want more inclusive leadership, not less. The governmental programs that address LGBTQ issues will be cut. For example, mental health issues, people who are homeless, HIV protection and AIDS prevention, those programs could be reduced or cut altogether. More and more religious exemptions could be allowed through 2025. The government would just you could be allowed by government to refuse to serve people based on your religious beliefs, which means our opportunities could also be diminished and put us in a weaker, a more vulnerable position, as we could become also more isolated. And it's true, they could have more hate. It will encourage more hate against our community as we're beginning to feel equal in society and we have our rights and we feel like we're approaching equality. This could become a terrible environment, a toxic environment, and would target LGBTQ folks. And really, with all of these, we've made so much progress in the recent past we want that to keep going, but to have Project 25 come, that means we would go back. But no, we are not going back. We do not agree to this. We are here, we exist, we are just like everyone else in the community, and we deserve our place to be heard. Thank you. I turn it back to Daniel now.
Thank you so much for your comments, for your amazing words. Yes, the LGBTQ community has their rights, has grown, and has enjoyed equality. Project 2025 would be detrimental to our rights and set us back in time. It is another reason we all have to get out and vote. Thank you again for your comments. We are going to move on to our next presenter. We're very excited to have Sarah Young Bear Brown joining us today. We are proud to introduce our Indigenous representative for climate change. The normal greeting among tribes is Hoat, H-O-A-T, which means hello. Well, here is Sarah Young Bear Brown, who is from the tribe Meskwaki Nation in Iowa. She is the first Indigenous deaf person to be elected as the chairperson for the Native Americans Caucus for Iowa. She was invited to the White House 3 times by President Biden. She has been involved in politics since 18 years old, and she is following in her mother's footsteps, who has been involved in activism. And Sarah has learned a lot from her. Sarah is an activist and strongly supports Mother Earth as well as human rights. And Sarah says, thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here. It's a privilege to be with all of you tonight. I want to share with you our love for Mother Earth and how important it is for all of us to take care of our Earth. I want to remind all of you to think about your vote for Kamala Harris. There's some stories out there that she has changed her view on fracking. This is false. She has stayed true to her original comments about fracking. She's been very, very clear on fracking. She wants to remind you, and I want to remind you, to care for Mother Earth. Serious impacts are touching her and have been for a long time now. She needs our attention, she needs our help, and she needs our president to lead, to clean up our water, to clean up our air, to take care of our Earth, to help to improve our Mother Earth. We need to be better caretakers. That's what it comes down to. We need to remember to follow what our Mother Earth wants, to think carefully in the decisions we make moving forward. We can't pay attention. We can't go back. Some examples that we have seen over time happening, we have to pay attention to the fact that we are clearly not taking care of her well enough. We have to think about those impacts. I want to share something with you. It's hard for me sometimes to share this. I think I'm going to hand this to Daniel, and you can come back to me. Daniel.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sarah. Okay. We must cherish each other as people. We also must cherish our earth. It's our only home. We live on it together. So I want to thank you. We need to, for your comments about that. And we know this is true. Our next final joyful inspiration is our actor, Greg Spera. So let's bring Greg up. Okay, Greg is here today. Wait a second, we're going to wait. Is Greg? We'll wait for him to come up. There we go. All right, he's here. All right, let me just tell you a little bit about Greg Spera. He's a deaf person from Boston. He became, at the age of 9, he became interested in mime and studied under two very famous people, Trent Arbery and Marcel Marceau. In the deaf community, he is a skilled artist and a creator of mime stories that he likes to tell, and he's also a comedian. His passion is that he wants the deaf community to watch and also
dazzle.
He wants to dazzle people and or work as a director of ASL for a theater, and there's a person named Cheryl Emery, who is his person that he works with as a partner. And with that, I give you Greg, and he will entertain us. Thank you so much. And here we go. This is entitled Just Do It. Which by that I mean vote. And watch. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Greg. That was awesome. What a great performance. You're such an amazing mime. That's an amazing art form. Plus, you know, your your camera work, it was kind of good, you know. Anyway, it sort of fell down, but that's okay. Don't worry about it. It's all good. All right, we really enjoyed your show. Thank you so much, Greg. Go Kamala. Now we have one more speaker, and then we will have our Q&A period, and someone will take over for that from me. Our final speaker of the night is Lauren Clark. There she is. Hi, Lauren. Before I turn it over to Lauren, I must tell you that she and I met recently. And the funny thing is that my mom, many, many years ago, taught Lauren, and we met and realized that this is an incredibly small world. So anyway, I bring you Lauren. She is from upstate New York. She brings over 25 years of experience in the education and human services sectors. Her deep-rooted passion for politics drives her to explore and understand how political decisions impact individuals and communities. Lauren is dedicated to improving the quality of life for all, particularly for people with disabilities, and is committed to advancing policies that uplift and empower those populations to achieve their highest potential. It is my great pleasure to bring you Lauren Clark.
Thank you, Daniel. Okay, I'm thrilled to be with you all tonight. I've had the opportunity to watch all the presentations throughout the evening, and I want to share my presentation, which is a call to action. It's about what you can do to vote, to inspire you, to motivate others to get out to vote as well. We've seen many different themes throughout the evening from our variety of presenters. Marley talking about not being such a follower, and that's right. We have an opportunity to think for ourselves, to collect the facts, and based on those facts, to make wise choices in our vote. To examine the hope that we carry, the importance of education, our human rights, the rights to our bodies, our reproductive rights, Medicaid, Medicare, democracy itself. These are all the reasons that we're here tonight. I want to include also our planet as well. Sarah made those important comments about our planet, which we need to consider as well. There have been so many themes to inspire us, performances to inspire us as well tonight. Christie's poem about the cracks in the glass ceiling. It's time to break it free. Let go of old traditions. It is time to move forward. It is time to have a new future, to have a new life for ourselves. And so I am here tonight to tell you what you can do. How can you engage people? Get out the vote. Talk to your neighbors. Talk to your community. Encourage them to register to vote. Talk with your friends through social media. Have conversations with those friends about the importance of facts. Share facts with them. Make sure they have the right information so that they understand how their vote will benefit their lives. You want to encourage your friends to check vote.gov specifically and make sure that you are in fact registered. That is where you can check under your state. Encourage them to check that today, not to wait until the deadline. It's almost October. You want to make sure people are registered today. And the reason it's so important to vote is that every vote counts. Remember 2016. Remember how many of us thought our vote didn't matter. She had it in the bag, and then didn't we find out what a mistake we made? Your vote matters. Your vote counts. Now, why should you vote for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz? Well, after listening to all of our presenters this evening, you have many, many different reasons on many, many different topics to cast your vote for them, specifically the dangers of Project 2025, which will negatively impact many, many of us. We've already seen how Kamala Harris and Tim Walz have demonstrated that they are there to help our community, to support us, especially people with disabilities and people in general, the BIPOC community, the LGBTQ community, the greater community. It's important for all of us to make sure we are addressing the facts and making wise choices before we vote. Now, I want to share some other information that we're very excited about. We are going to be partnering with indivisible.org with it's the Deaf Strong National Chapter. We want you to please look for more information. We will be posting more information. We also have a letter writing campaign coming up that you would be very welcome to join, and we are going to be sharing information about that with a link. Please keep up the momentum, keep up the energy. We have hope. Keep it alive and keep it moving forward to November 5th. We have 50 days left, people. 50 days. Let's go. Let's work together. Let's get busy. Let's make this happen. Get people out and vote. Thank you all, and back to Daniel. Thank you, Lauren. Thank you. I enjoyed your comments very much. You're right. We've got about 50 days left. This is going to be here before you know it. Sometimes we think we have plenty of time, but time gets here before we know it. Make sure you're registered. Get ready to vote. So moving on, we're almost ready to close our Zoom call. But next, we want to thank, we're very, very excited about Indivisible offering this public platform to gather together and to share our ideas, to be well represented, to see each other right here. We're going to get ready to start our Q&A portion. We're going to review first about the process. I want to bring in Brienne Berger, who is going to be leading our Q&A. And let me share with you first how this process is going to work. Many of you registered, all of you registered before you joined here today. And when you registered, you had an opportunity to include a question that you might have. Those questions have been reviewed by all of us, and this is your opportunity to have those questions answered. So let me introduce to you Brienne Berger. She has over 25 years of experience working in the field of education and access, working with people with disabilities. She has an in-depth knowledge of public policy, working in access, specifically in terms of the American with Disabilities Act with the Democratic National Convention and the International Arts and Disability Festival. She is a DC resident, and she advocates and persists for the successful draft and passage of the bill to establish the DC Office for the Deaf, Deafblind, and Hard of Hearing, and passage of the bill to require open captions in movie showings in DC. Brienne has served also as the vice chair of the WMATA Accessibility Advisory Council. She is a member of the New Leaders Council's Washington, D.C. chapter.
Hey, everybody. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I'm thrilled to be here, and I am now here to answer your questions. And the discussion has been quite wild. Many of you have texted me and wanted to know what their platform was, what Kamala and Walz's platforms were. So we're hoping this evening has answered some of your question. because we have shown them to you. But our first question from you is, Social Security benefits should be tax-free for deaf seniors. I'm reading this to you, what's on the screen. Also, MISC must be reported when you have $600, which is not reasonable. I believe it should be increased to $5,000 or more. Thank you in advance for your answer. Now, you see the link below? It says kamalaharris.com/issues. It's really small there on my screen, but maybe if you can bring it up in the chat if you want. But that lists her platform. And so that's where I'm going to get the answer from for this question. There are two parts: Social Security, okay, which are Social Security benefits, which includes your monthly retirement benefit, a survivor's benefits, and benefits for people with disabilities. It is not the supplemental security income. It's not SSI. That's different from Social Security, completely separate. Now, SSI is not about taxes. You don't pay taxes on that. So, but Social Security benefits, you do pay taxes on. That amount that you receive from the government is called Social Security, from the Social Security Administration, must be reported to the IRS every year for your taxes. And you report it in a 1040 and at the IRS form and so forth. Anyway, that tax portion
Is included as part of income.
The Social Security is included as part of your income and goes into the calculation of what your tax liability is, depending on your total income, okay, for the total year of your tax year. So the IRS website shows you that, you know, half your benefits plus but part of your income, so is tax exempt. So really, if you file depends on your filing status. So when I explain what Kamala Harris is in their platform, I'm going to take that to tell you what it is. What she says is, I'm going to tell you word for word. Vice President Harris will protect your Social Security and Medicare against any attack from Donald Trump and his allies. She will strengthen Social Security and Medicare for the long term and make the millionaires and billionaires pay their fair share of the tax. She will fight to ensure that Americans are able to count on those benefits for a long time to come, continuing. Additionally, she talks about cutting taxes. What that means is Harris and Walz commit to ensure that no one earning $400,000 or less will not have a tax increase. That is directly from her platform on the website. So I hope that answers number one. Moving on to number two. Question number two, please. There we go. So question number two asks us to discuss Harris's campaign and how it aligns with existing work of leading deaf advocacy groups like the NAD. How would a Harris campaign impact the enforcement of the ADA? And the ADA stands for the Americans with Disabilities Act, as you know. Your answer. Now, President Biden was one of the original sponsors of the Americans with Disabilities Act. Vice President Harris has been deeply involved with disability issues when she was an attorney, the Attorney General of California, and then again as the U.S. Senator. And that continues until today. Recently, on the 34th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act passage, Kamala Harris posted on her Facebook page that said, for 34 years, the ADA has helped guide our work to build a more inclusive and accessible nation. On the anniversary of this bill passing, we renew our commitment to fight for equal rights and opportunities for all Americans, including people with disabilities. That was posted on her website last July. Now, again, just last year was the 33rd anniversary of the ADA in 2023. Kamala Harris hosted a roundtable to discuss the Americans with Disabilities Act. She said, and I quote, "People with disabilities still face tremendous challenges in participation of fully in our society, and we must be responsible and truthful about where we are and what we have yet to do." During that roundtable, the CEO of the National Association of the Deaf was there. Kamala was discussing accessibility to voting rights, and also healthcare and so forth, and and starting new businesses and so forth, and also airline travel and artificial intelligence. So there are a few links that we have that I'll share with you later. Currently, her current platform on the website says, and I quote, "The Harris-Walz administration will continue to protect Americans from discrimination, building on the work that has been done and to secure $2 billion in funding for an Office of Civil Rights across the federal government. That includes funding for the Department of Justice to enforce the Americans with Disabilities Act." So she's committing $2 billion, and that's on her platform. So, number 3. Ooh, this one is a big one. Okay, this is the question of the night, isn't it? Why is it so important that Harris-Walz be voted into the White House? How come? All right. So I'm going to give you a couple of reasons, and I'm going to, try to condense this because you've already heard a lot of it tonight. And so, I don't want to repeat what everybody said. But the campaign platform says Harris wants to lower the cost, which is the opposite of what Trump wants to do. Trump wants to raise prices, raise taxes. He wants to weaken the middle class. He wants to cut Social Security. He wants to get rid of Medicare. He wants to really demolish the Department of Education and preschool, Head Start, and affordable health care. So that's what Trump is saying. And what Harris says is that she wants to really, it comes back to a lot of things that are on her platform. She lists that Trump has an alarming record of deleting and ignoring Americans with disabilities when he's already faced many lawsuits for failing to comply with the ADA. He has mocked a reporter who has a disability. And he also he's mocked people with brain injuries. He has been fined again at homes that have harmed residents. He's been fined for that. Social Security is something that he just doesn't understand why we even have it. Okay, so Project 2025 she goes on and on about that in her platform. But we know, so anyway, moving on. The comment about supporting Harris is because we want to be sure that the American families who rely on support of everyday issues or everyday things, the people who have jobs and continue to support Medicare and so on and so forth. Many things that she says that you've already heard tonight. We've touched on a lot of those, and that's including the answer. But that she also explains this on her platform on the website. Okay. Oh, wait. Oh, time's going up. Oh, there's so many questions.
That's okay. Yes, we've answered 3 questions. We know there's a lot to go, and we will find a way to cover those. We really appreciate your taking the time. Brianna's saying
And all the links are there. Just follow the links.
Thank you so much for your comments. Really appreciate your help, Brianne. Yes, we've covered 3 of your questions. We know that there's a lot more that we want to cover. I know that all of you have burning questions, and we refer you directly to the Harris Waltz platform. So it has been my pleasure hosting this evening, trying to answer some of these difficult questions, but we have arrived at the end. I want to thank everyone so much for being with us on our journey, all of our performers and our presenters here today. I really want to take a moment to thank Indivisible for even making this event happen tonight. We want to thank our ASL interpreters and our captioners as well. Personally, I want to thank 2 individuals, Colby Tecklin and Jamie Tecklin. Thank you both for letting us use their technology here to be able to set up. And also for all the lighting. That was how I was able to get all of your attention, flashing all those lights, right? Of course, really huge thanks to all of our presenters, to our performers. And if you would like to know anything more about them, please check out their social media platforms. Speaking of social media, we have some different platforms we'd like to share with you regarding our call, 3 in particular. The first one is Deaf Allies for Harris and Walls, then Deaf Progressive United, and Signing for Progress, Deaf Voters for Kamala. So a big thank you again for all the planning that went into this evening, for getting NDZC set up. I have so many people I want to thank. I want to thank Cindy Sternfeld. I want to thank Melissa Watson and Wendy Hines, and of course, Lauren Clark as well. Now, in closing, please remember, check your registration. Make sure you're ready to vote. If you haven't registered, register, and every vote is important, including yours. Everyone, have a wonderful night. Thank you for joining us.